Yo, what to do, YouTube? It is your boy Culture Shock. We are back with another video today. We got to talk about the next upcoming matchup for the Indianapolis Colts. They are facing the Las Vegas Raiders. Formidable opponents. We do have a nice little history with them. Uh, the Colts are winning in that margin as well, but it is what it is. Joined by Lucas tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It should be a very interesting game to go over for not just the game itself, but we got a lot of headlines surrounding this game nationally, so we'll see how it all shakes out.
Definitely can't go on without those headlights. It's going to be a good one. We got a lot going on for both teams. But we're going to start off by talking about, the history of the Raiders this season. They're at 8-17. They got a lot going on. I mean, they were looking really solid at the beginning, but things happened. It is what it is at the end of the day. I'm just going to go down the schedule. If you guys missed who they played the Ravens at the beginning of the season. They won that one 27-33. They beat the Steelers after that. Then they beat the Dolphins. They lost to the Chargers, lost to the Bears. They beat the Broncos. They beat the Eagles. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Chiefs. They lost to the Bengals. They beat the Cowboys. We all remember that game. They lost to Washington by 2. They got smacked by the Chiefs again. Then they beat the Browns. Then they beat the Broncos. And now they play the Indianapolis Colts. Before we go ahead and talk about, everything with the guidelines and everything, what are your thoughts about the Raiders this season?
They have just been absolutely tumultuous. I mean, it started off with they had a pretty solid start, 3-0 against some okay teams with the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Dolphins, though that was early season Dolphins, not late season Dolphins. But then things happened, particular with John Gruden. He got unceremoniously axed for very good reason, but everyone was kind of expecting, hey, this is the point where they're just going to absolutely fall down. And they kind of plateaued a little bit. They didn't absolutely tank the whole entire season, but they're still in the hunt, which is surprising considering they have an interim head coach right now. So they've been very inconsistent, but they do have a really good quarterback, some really interesting offensive weapons right now. Their defense is not that special, of course, but they do have some upside there personnel-wise, but it's hard to really know what to expect from the Raiders week in, week out. So, I mean, we'll see which Raiders team we get.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just to speaking of, the run game is pretty solid. They have a very star potential tight end in Darren Waller. Derek Carr is streaky, but I like him as a quarterback. I would have took him in as a Colts quarterback if we had the option to get him. Their defense, their defense is okay. It's not the best. I think that's one of the pieces that they lack is their defensive side. I mean, but they do have talent all around over there, so it's no discredit to them. They just haven't figured it out this year, especially with everything going on off the field. It can be a lot for a team to try to focus on making the playoffs. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Speaking about at the end of the day, CDC, they're talking about the guidelines for the players that catch the protocol. They're switching it from 10 to 5 games. I'm pretty sure you know a little bit more about this. So go ahead and educate some of the people that may not know about these guidelines and everything.
Okay, so there has been an adjustment in the guidelines previously. If you are a unvaccinated player and you had a positive test, then you were out guaranteed 10 games, if not longer, depending on how long you test negative. But 10 games was the minimum. And that could mean you're guaranteed out 1 week and you might be out the next week, depending on when you got your positive test. So that was going to be a very big factor for the Colts. But we do now have a different change-up with it. Now, whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you have an asymptomatic case, then you only need to quarantine for 5 days. So you're out for 5 days. And then the other 5 days, you just have to be heavily masked throughout the time. So we'll see how the masking part is enforced. I know the NFL can be pretty strict on that at times, but when it comes to games, not quite. So we'll see how that kind of falls into play here. But the cut down from 10 to 5, and of course that big key though is if they are asymptomatic. If these players start having symptoms, then they kind of have to wait until they get these negative results and still have to quarantine for quite a bit. So we'll see. It's a very case-by-case basis. It's still trying to develop into see how it's exactly adapted, but it definitely helps the Colts in this case in terms of player availability heading into this week, since we have an enormous amount of players currently on the COVID reserve list.
Yeah, man, that's facts. Going into this game, Carson Wentz was one of those guys that just got tested positive. It's a very big point for the Colts that we could be potentially missing. And, there's rumors speculating about this whole Sam Ellinger starting and Philip Rivers may be rumored to returning. How do you think the Colts should handle this situation going into this game if you haven't talked about it already?
Well, at the quarterback position is, of course, is going to be the big headliner. Uh, there is a chance that Carson Wentz can play this game with the new CDC guidelines. He tested positive, or at least the news broke today that he tested positive. Depending on when he had that test, if it was maybe yesterday and it just tested positive today, then that 5 days, if he's asymptomatic, he could play after those 5 days. If he tested positive today, though, I don't know. That might be a game time decision, or he might just be out. So we'll see. It depends on what details of his actual case itself and when the test actually occurred. As of right now, the Colts are planning to have him available potentially until they know any different. But for the options to replace him, of course, in-house you got Ellinger, who is a rookie. He has not shown a whole lot. Hasn't shown that he can be great, but he also hasn't shown anything to feel like really, really confident heading into a big playoff win, get in game. So we'll see what he could possibly offer. Rivers, he has shown some interest in coming back into the league for late in the season to help a team out for a playoff push. He has expressed interest. He's still a high school head coach right now for football. So he's still around the game, but who knows how he is physically right now. Who knows if he has to shake off quite a bit of rust, which that's a very good chance. He definitely shows a lot of upside in terms of just, hey, you got a steady, reliable, experienced quarterback who can just step right in the middle of the season. But of course, that's a little bit outside of the box kind of way to try and get a guy to come out of retirement for you. Of course, he's not the only Colts quarterback who has retired it recently, but I think we all know that the other guy, he is not coming as well. So anyone who's thinking that, sorry to put a damper on your hopes and dreams. He ain't coming. We ain't saying the name, but he ain't coming.
Yep, that's facts. We are not going to say the name. So going into this game, let's break down the game now. I'm pretty sure we cleared up everything that we wanted to clear up. Going into this game, it's going to be very pivotal. Of course, the key factor is trying to figure out who the heck is going to play quarterback, and then identifying the identity of the Colts offense for that stance. Which I mean is like who's playing quarterback would probably much identify how the offense is going to look going into the game. And one of these games like this is definitely pivotal because we need this win. We already got the last one against the Patriots. We definitely got to win this one, and then we have to beat Jacksonville after this. So we definitely got to run the football. I'm pretty sure we're going to do that. But I think the defense and special teams can definitely carry this game, no matter who's at quarterback or what we do going into going to play Vegas. So I definitely think the defense has been on fire. They definitely can carry this load. I'm looking for a big game coming out of a guy like Isaiah Rodgers and everything. We definitely have history with the Raiders. Everyone remember the one-hand catch with Kenny Moore, the one-hand catch by Marley Cox. But I really think we can double down on the run game and figure that out. But I think if we have a game manager, that's all we need for the offense. All we need is to manage the game. Don't try anything, try throwing it deep or over the top. If it's there, it's there. But I think we should just find a game management type of style of play like we've been doing and just let the run game run its course and figure it out from there. If we can contain them on defense, we'll have ourselves an easy game. So now I'm going to turn to you. What does the Colts have to do to win this game?
Well, of course, establishing the ground game is going to be absolutely vital for the Colts. Jonathan Taylor, he is a man on a mission for some hardware, but most importantly, to try and get these Colts into the playoffs. You win one more game. The rest of the way, we are in the playoffs, whether it's the Raiders or the Jags, or, like you said, both. But for this matchup in particular, their run defense is all right. Like they aren't amazing, but they're right around average to below average, which is a plus matchup for Jonathan Taylor to exploit, of course. Unfortunately, with the offensive line having a lot of COVID and injuries, the availability of the O lineman is up in the air. I mean, you might get Ryan Kelly back, maybe, depending on his personal reasons for leaving. They are hopeful that he can come back, but of course, that timeline is completely up to Ryan, and everyone is understanding of that. Glowinski should be back based off of the COVID protocols. Braden Smith as well should likely be back. Then you get into Chris Reed. He was injured. He's day-to-day. Same with Eric Fisher. He's day-to-day. So a lot up in the air there. But then on the passing side, like you said, when we don't know if Carson Wentz is going to play or if it's going to be Sam Ehlinger, but this is not a very daunting pass defense. Yes, they are able to kind of limit you through the air in terms of yards, but where they are the 11th ranked pass defense in terms of yards, but they are the worst in the NFL in terms of taking the ball away from the quarterback. They only have 5 interceptions on the year, worst in the NFL. So they haven't quite exactly capitalized on opposing quarterbacks' mistakes, and they've had some pretty easy quarterbacks to capitalize on their mistakes for. So granted, it can be fluky, but after all this time, you only have 5 interceptions. I can feel a little bit more confident in our ability to kind of protect the football and win the turnover battle that way.
Yeah, man. Hearing about those rankings has definitely got me turning another eye and starting to think that we can actually put it off if we do pass the football. And like Sam Ellinger isn't a bad quarterback. Of course, the offensive line isn't the best to help him, but I think he can figure it out if he goes to line there. So I appreciate you for joining us tonight, give us your preview on this game. Now we need a score prediction.
Whew. Now, this is a very tough game to do a score prediction for because both teams have a lot of COVID reserve players right now who may or may not have play, especially with the new rule changes. We kind of are all trying to figure it out as we go on those. However, considering both teams are going through similar kind of circumstances in terms of that, and considering the strengths of each teams, even when they're healthy, I'm going to give the edge to the Colts in this one. It's going to be a lot tighter game than I think we would like to admit. The line is currently 7.5 points for the Colts to win. I feel like the Raiders are probably going to cover that just because who knows with a rookie quarterback what's going to happen, for better or for worse. So I feel the Colts are going to have a 24-21 victory against the Raiders.
Okay. I'm going to go 27-17 Colts. We'll 27-17.
Same score as a certain big victory that we had a few weeks back. I like it.
Yeah, man. I think the defense can pull it out. I definitely do. I think they can probably put some points up if they go for it. But it's been a lot of dropped interceptions. But hey, I think they can put up some points. Either them or special teams. I need a kick return. I need a kick return or a punt return to make my night. But I definitely think they can pull it off 27-17. Who's going to be the key factor for this game?
Whew. A lot of decisions making on that. You could put it up to really anyone in this game. I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor, of course. That's an easy one, of course, because he is vaccinated. So he's less likely to have an asymptomatic case, or he's more likely to have an asymptomatic case. He's going to get the rock possibly over 30 times this game. So wherever he goes, the Colts go.
Okay. I'm going to go with either Sam Ellinger if he's playing. I'm pretty sure he is. Or the pass rush. The edge rush could definitely be another key factor. If they can dominate like they did against the Cardinals, even though they showed flashes, it wasn't the best, but they shown flashes. If they can have that type of presence against the Raiders, it's going to be a very good night. But we're going to get up out of here. Let us know your comments in the comment section about the game and everything. Lucas, appreciate you for joining me tonight. Let us know where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Twitter at robinslucas.com or at robinslucas on Twitter. And you can also find me at the Blue Stable, where we're going to be putting out some amazing content over this next week.
All right. So thank you. Go ahead and check them out on those platforms. Appreciate you for joining me tonight. That is Lucas. This is Marcus. Until next time, you'll be culture shocked.